Hi, Scott Orland with Cinema Magazine. I really have just finished the 45th edition of the Toronto Film Festival, and one of the breakout performances for me is our next guest. The movie is called Good Joe Bell, and the actor is Reed Miller. Reed, talk a little bit about here you have this. I mean, you've actually been to Sundance before and other film festivals,
hmm
but you have this
hmm
great movie coming into a film festival, and you're operating out of your house. Do
I
you miss
know,
that
it's
experience?
crazy. Yeah, I do. It's bittersweet, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like it was, it was upsetting that I wasn't able to actually go to Toronto, be at the festival and meet the other filmmakers and get to be a part of that the normal experience, but also I have to constantly remind myself how lucky we are that we're even getting to have the festival and that the film is even getting to premiere and be seen by people, especially at a time as weird as this. So that's definitely more of I'm trying to keep myself, keep that in the forefront. You know what I mean? It's like, at least it's even coming out. You know what I mean? So it's very humbling that people are enjoying it and it's finally, people are finally getting to see it.
I've been doing this job for a while now, and every so
hmm
often you'll see a youth performance. I remember Saoirse Ronan in Atonement, Jake
Yeah.
Gyllenhaal, actually your co-producer on this, when he did October Sky,
Yeah.
Tom Holland in The Impossible.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I have to put your performance in that level as well too. It was so incredibly nuanced, vulnerable. So talk a little bit about your approach because your character actually existed. I
Yeah.
think I understood there were tapes, there were things that you could have kind of leaned into.
Yeah.
How much did you want to utilize that, and how much did you have to create your own character?
I would say I've never played a real person before other than Jaden. So it was, definitely new territory, but it was exciting, but it was also there's a lot of pressure that comes with a role like this because as an actor, when you take on someone's legacy, it's your job to portray them as honestly as possible, like who they really were. And so for me, I heavily leaned into the home videos of him. I had some videos of him singing. I even had his iPod Shuffle that had his music on it, and speaking to his mother and his brothers, and I mean, even wearing his clothes for the duration of the shoot. I really heavily relied on the research, just to really paint the most truthful version of him that I could. While also, you know, we didn't know everything about Jaden. No one can know everything about someone unless you're them. You know what I mean? Everyone will always just have a version of that person that they saw and interacted with. So for me, I did have the opportunity to really mentally dive into who he was and sort of create my own picture there using what I knew. Like, why did he feel how he felt? You know, what really pushed him to, taking his own life. And no one can really know that, but for me, he was such a brave and outward and strong, compelling human who was just so himself unapologetically and wasn't afraid to be himself. And that showed me a lot and taught me a lot about who he is, especially his music.
Let me ask you, because obviously, in some way, we're all kind of buffered in life. I mean, we have a little protection system. And when
Right.
you delve into an experience like this about bullying, that about how horrible this experience can be, and we don't realize it because we're not, like you say, you're not in the shoes of that person to
Right.
understand how detrimental it can be. What type of discussion do you hope this movie will afford people, or will it open eyes?
I do think it'll open eyes. I think it's a film that some people I think are really going to enjoy and some people are going to have a problem with. And that's just because it's a controversial story, especially in how it's told. And I hope that people leave the theater with opened eyes and a new sense of empathy for others. And when I say that, I mean everyone is struggling or has struggled or is going through something in their own way that you don't know about. And I mean, Jaden was that way, I'm that way, everyone is that way. And I hope that people see the film and they leave the theater with a renewed sense of empathy for other people and just understanding. And not only that, but I really hope it creates more allies for the LGBTQ community and for people to actually do the research and to help in any way that they can. Because it's like, I've said this before, we've come a long way with acceptance, but we still have a long way to go. Especially when you look at the suicide rate among the LGBTQ youth. I mean, it's kind of sickening to see the numbers there. So I really hope that it inspires people to do the research and to, think about others before they speak.
I want to ask you because part of the experience of this was working alongside Mark Wahlberg. As I
Right.
mentioned earlier, your co-producer, I don't know how involved he was on set for you, but Jake Gyllenhaal.
Right.
What type of mentors do actors like that provide someone like yourself who's starting out?
I think for me, what was great was, I've been working for a while, for about 8 years. Nothing to this degree, of course. A lot of TV, a lot of smaller films. So it was nice having that sort of experience. It's not like I was going in with no experience. That would be really scary. So it was nice to have that under my belt. But I think for someone like Mark, for instance, he was a great mentor, and I think in one of the ways he was a great mentor was he treated me like an equal. He didn't treat me like a kid. He didn't treat because I'm 20, but I look young, and a lot of people, because I look young, tend to treat me like I'm a child. But he didn't. He was very blunt, and he treated me like he treated everyone else on set, and I needed that, and I loved that because he treated me like I was on the same page as him, and that allowed me to be on the same page as him, and it allowed me to have the confidence to be vulnerable and go to those places maybe I wouldn't have been able to otherwise.
What's interesting about you at this level, like you said, you're 20 years old, is you're not just an actor, that you've also creatively outreached to writing. I don't know if you've tried to direct. I mean, you produced some stuff.
Yes, I've
Talk a little bit
directed.
about how important that is for your creative development, not to kind of spread your wings like that.
Yeah, at the beginning of my career, even before my career, when I was just like 13, 12, 11, I was getting into writing and I was doing, really cheap, small stop motion videos for my friends and family on Facebook, that type of thing. But as I grew and I, began working more in the industry and I learned a lot, I started writing more. And it wasn't until 2018 that I wrote, directed, and starred in my first short film called Flicker, which is sort of like a love letter to American Psycho. It's one of my favorite movies. And it's on Amazon Prime, actually. But then after that, I directed a micro feature called Jaeger, which is an action film. I wrote, directed, and starred in that because I do martial arts. Action is kind of my passion. I love action films. That's what I want to do. I want to be like Tom Cruise, if you couldn't tell. And so I wrote and directed that. And, for me, that's taught me so much. It's taught me so much about acting. It's taught me so much about directing. And it's taught me so much about what I'm capable of. And something that I learned is, if I direct something, I may not want to star in it. If I write something for myself and I star in it, I may not want to direct it because I feel like acting and directing, at least for me, they're both so all encompassing in their own way. You know what I mean? Like with acting, that takes up, for me, my mental energy 100% of the time. That's all that's on my mind is that role. So splitting sort of my focus from that into directing is kind of two totally different avenues. So I've learned that I have my own deep, deep passion for directing and directing other people and like writing and telling my story, even if I'm not in it. But I also write a lot of vehicles for myself to star in that I would want other people to direct. So it's, it taught me a lot about myself creatively and what I'm capable of and how to get the best performance and how to make the best films, at least for me.
And a last question for you, because I'm very impressed with what I'm hearing so far, and it's especially for somebody 20 years old, that level of confidence. So there could be young people watching this now who are
Right.
like, oh, I want to kind of get into this, but they are riddled with insecurity, as a lot of people are. So
Right.
what advice would you say to them about establishing a level of confidence and how important that is?
I think confidence is something, it's very important, but it is also something that you have to build through experience. For myself, when I first started, I was not confident. I was very anxious. I was a very nervous person. I still am, but I at least have confidence now. At the time, I didn't, but I built it up through
Oh my God.
working and experience. What?
Oh, I am recording. All of a sudden, I
Oh,
looked at
yeah.
I wasn't recording.
Oh, no. Oh, no, 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 no. You're totally recording. But
I was like panic sitting.
I was like, oh, no. But I think my advice to people is to not kick yourself for not having confidence if you don't have confidence. Like that's not something to beat yourself over the head over. It's something that you will gain through experience and open-mindedness and pushing yourself even if you don't want to push yourself. If you want to be in this industry, you have to push yourself. It's putting yourself out there, making your own stuff. It's, an excuse I hear a lot is, well, I don't have a good camera, or I have an old camera, or I only have my phone. So what? So many people, like someone made a feature film on an iPhone called Tangerine. I think it was like 3 years ago, and it won a bunch of awards at Sundance. It's like, it doesn't matter what equipment you have. What matters is you having the vision. And then the rest will all fall into place. So I think for the best advice I can give is to make your own stuff, put yourself out there, and don't worry about it looking the best. Worry about the vision that you have and making that come to life because you can do that with anything. We live in an age where you have a camera in your pocket at all times. You just do. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars on some big cinema camera. Just make do with what you have. Focus on a good story, on good acting, on well thought out shots, and you'll be fine.
See, I needed to have that confidence in knowing that I was recording. That's the first time all of a sudden, literally, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe you. All of that. Reed, I cannot thank you enough. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of you in the future. That really
Thank
was
you.
just a startlingly impressive performance, and I
Thank you very
congratulate you on
much.
that. And
Thank you.
anyway, the movie will be called Good Joe Bell. Hopefully, you'll be seeing it soon at your theaters. And this is Scott Orlow. Until next time.
Thank you very much.
And let's see, stop.